Hey YouTube, how's it going? My name is Crossfade, and today I have a video that I'm hoping will help you determine whether or not the encounter booster is worth it to you. So, I performed an experiment where I purchased a 12-hour encounter double booster and used it for 4 hours on the same stage, on the same difficulty, all 4 hours, and recorded the results so that I, reassure myself and hopefully reassure you that that money spent is not going to waste. So what I'm trying to farm right now is the current exotic capture event, which is the darts. I'm calling them darts because, nobody knows how to pronounce them right now. At least I don't think anybody does. So the community is calling them darts right now. But it's basically the dog version of the Gatitos. And that's what all the rave is about right now. So what I'm doing is using this booster, farming it, recording it, and hoping that it is in fact worth the money spent on it. So I bought these boosters and I decided to use them on Mirage Runes. And I'm using it on Mirage Ruins because I have my catch rate all the way maxed out on that stage. I am capable of clearing the stage in 40 to 50 seconds. So I feel like this stage is max proficiency for this kind of experiment, where I'm completing the stage pretty fast, and like I said, my catch rate is as high as it can possibly be. So as far as which stage on Mirage Ruins I chose the experience bonus because during that stage, each part of the stage, you get 4 encounters with a unit. So that gives you a higher chance of one of those units being an exotic. So, that being said, I farmed the same exact stage for 4 hours straight and recorded, my results so that I could put them on the table for you guys, and you guys could decide on your own whether or not you're willing to spend your money on these boosters. So out of the first hour, unfortunately I wasn't able to record the first hour. I recorded it, but the quality was awful and it was just a pain in the butt to fix. So I decided to scrap it. I scrapped the video, but I kept the results. So for the first hour, my results, I ran into 4 rares and 1 exotic. And since I'm extreme, it was the fire exotic, dart. For the rares on this stage, the rare is seedling, and I caught 4 of those and 1 dart during that first hour. After that first hour, I really thought it was worth it. I thought running into 4 rares and 1 exotic was way better than what I would have run in if I weren't running a booster at that time. However, the second hour, my luck kind of dwindled a little bit. I ran into an exotic, which you should see at the beginning of the video, and then I run into a rare like 10 minutes after. So the second hour was not nearly as, profitable as the first hour. But in my opinion, 1 exotic per hour, is nothing to complain about. I'll take that, any day. That's fine with me. However, some people it might not be fine with, because just because you're encountering an exotic once per hour doesn't mean you're catching that exotic unit. I was fortunate enough, however, during this entire experiment, I didn't miss out on a single exotic that popped up. I was able to catch all of them, and it was really weird too, because out of all of them, I was able to catch it the very first try most of the time, which was really weird to me, because then on a seedling, you know, sometimes it would take 2 or 3 attempts. Just another little tip I want to point out. Say you are farming and you run into a rare on the first of the 3rd round. My personal recommendation is to skip that rare, because there's footage and screenshots out there, you know, of people committing those catch tokens to a rare only to find an exotic on the following stage. So while I was farming, I made up my own little rule that if I got like a variant or a rare or even a super rare on the very first stage, that I would kill it and take my loss, because, you know, I didn't want to risk there being an exotic on the following stage. So to this point, the first hour, like I said, we had 4 rares and 1 exotic show up. In the second hour, I had 1 exotic, 1 rare. As I got to the 3rd hour, it really picked up for some reason, and I was able to get 1 rare, 2 variant, which means not impressive at all, but I was able to run into 2 exotics almost 20 minutes right after each other. So for me to hit 2 exotics in 1 hour, I consider that to be, you know, pretty fortunate. And by the end of this experiment, at least for the 4 hours I did, I didn't do 12 hours, you know, straight by any means. But for the 4 hours I did keep an eye on, and I did record on the exact time, I was averaging roughly 1 exotic per hour. So in my personal opinion, if you're like me and you're trying to farm this exotic unit, then 1 per hour is not bad at all. I think it's like a close to 2-week long event. So if you put in, you know, let's say you did 4 hours a day for each day of this event, you got 1 per hour. That's plenty of, you know, darts to Evo 3, that light one. Everybody's going for the light one. It's been determined by pretty much everybody based off of the stats and the skill set that the light one is going to be the way to go. So that being said, you could use this booster up until you get just enough to fuse an Evo 3, the light dart, which I'm assuming is what a lot of people plan to do. However, that's not really the kind of player I am. I'm that kind of guy that wants to collect one of everything. So for me, these boosters are definitely worth it, because I'm not trying to catch the bare minimum amount to where I can just Evo 3 a light dart. I'm trying to at least be able to have a light and dark dart to Evo 3. But if possible, and if I'm fortunate enough with these boosters and with the time spent, and, you know, just sheer luck, I'm hoping that I can at least be able to maintain, you know, one of each element. And I know, you know, the fire, water, and wood darts aren't nearly as valuable, but like I said, I'm just that kind of guy that I want to have one of everything, you know. So if you're that kind of guy too, and you want to collect and fill up your, you know, little Astro book, then it's definitely worth it. Like I said, you're hitting 1 per hour, so if you're committed to it, you have the time, you have the money, definitely consider buying one of these packs every time you go to farm. Another thing I did during this little experiment is, because I knew that I would be farming for the video itself, and then, you know, afterwards I was going to continue to farm, I ended up also buying the experience booster. So if you're capable and willing, you can buy the encounter booster and the experience booster. So now you're improving your units at the same time. You have increased rates of running into, rare units, super rare units, and even legendaries. And of course, the exotics, the whole point that you're there for. What was weird though is in that whole 4-hour experiment, I only ran into rare, variant, and exotic. I didn't run into any super rares and any legendaries, which for this stage would have been, the Miho and the Stormbeaks, which is really unfortunate because I bought that package with that, booster, going in thinking, well, if I don't get an exotic, then surely I'll get, at least a legendary, because I need to build that Stormbeak for the Shiva fusion. But anyway, it's just really weird to me that I happen to be hitting one exotic per hour, but when it came to, legendaries and super rares, I didn't hit a single one. And I'm not really sure how it works, because like I said, the first 2 hours I got one exotic per hour. In the third hour, I actually ended up getting 2 exotics in 1 hour. But in the fourth hour, I didn't even run into a variant. Not a little. I didn't run into anything, really. And it just kind of surprised me, because leading up to that, it looked really promising, really progressing. But by the end of the experiment, looking back, comparing what I had to other people, the package definitely seems worth it. And I was considering making a second video where I did the same exact thing, same exact stage, same exact amount of time, but without a booster. I was considering that, but one of these off days recently, I was farming for the exotic without a booster, but I was like AFKing it, so I was letting it run in the background while I did something else, like played Xbox or something like that. And I didn't run into a single exotic throughout the entire day, which only, reassures me that the $3 spent for this project was definitely well worth it. So for the rest of this event, I won't farm without some kind of boost. That being said too, let's say, you don't have the $3 to just throw around, or you're one of those people that, promise to stay free to play and that you wouldn't spend a single penny on this game. What you could do is you could wait for the, server promoted events where a certain region had, I think it's a 1.5 times the encounter rate. So there's alternate ways. You can either literally farm all day in hopes of running into one. I mean, if you play all day, the odds are in your favor. You're bound to run into at least one, I would imagine at least. But like I said, if you don't want to spend that money and you want to stick to free to play, or you don't have that money, whatever your reason may be, there's always those events, every now and again, where it's just server promoted. You don't have to pay or anything. So it's definitely something to consider if you're on the fence about whether or not you want to spend. Something else to mention, this is obviously my first YouTube video when it comes to Monster Super League. So I am more than willing to hear any kind of content ideas you guys may have. I'm looking to make this a regular thing. I just recently got into regular streaming, so just streaming my daily play, Arena, Titan, Dungeons, PvP, CVC, all that good stuff. And I will leave a link to my Twitch in the description box, and I would more than appreciate it if you stopped by and gave me a follow. But I'm considering content ideas. Something I consider doing would be, reaching out to the community and the viewers and receiving suggestions on a unit to build. So, let's say you recommended a 2-star unit that was somewhat farmable. I would take the time to build it, gym it well enough, and then I would run it through scenarios and record the information and play it back to you, so that way you know whether or not it's a unit to build. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm just that kind of player that likes to collect. So I'm a late game player, so there's not a whole lot of units that are valuable to me at this point, but I like to collect units so much that I'm willing to make a 2-star into an Evo 3, to build up and to give outrageous gems for a 2-star, and run it in Arena, run it in Titans, CVC, maybe like golems, and then relay back to you, whether or not it's worth it. Another perk of that would be beginner players who, don't have the units that myself and other mid to end game players have. It's a unit that I could build and I could show them, like, this is a decent substitute up until you get to the point where you can have these OP units, and maybe it'll help them out in certain scenarios, part of their golems teams and even arena teams and things like that. So I'm just looking for ideas on what to record and what the community is interested, what they want to see, what other projects. I'm really big into statistics and records keeping, which is why I was so excited to do this, because I wanted to see for myself, what are my odds, is it worth it, what's the value of the package, what can I expect if I buy the package. And that's why I did this, so that I could confirm it for myself and relay it back to you guys, so that it would help you decide whether or not you wanted to pursue the same route. So other than that, that's pretty much the video. I'm just gonna let it play on out, and you guys can listen to music and watch it farm, or whatever. Just I'd appreciate it if you liked, and visit me on Twitch occasionally. Also, like I said, if you've got those suggestions for content ideas, let it rip. I'm open to anything, and thank you so much for watching.
So cool and so shiny, goes under the sun. He's nice and chill, but he looks kinda nasty. It's a soldier on acid. It's fucking. never fade away.